By now you've heard a lot about how quick and easy it is to use the SmartSensor HD. To show you just how quick and easy it really is, we're going to take you through an installation from beginning to end. Before we start, we want to take a moment to make sure we have everything we need and prepare for the installation. We're going to partially attach the sensor to the mounting bracket, which is much easier to do on the ground than up on the pole. Using a 9/16 wrench, we'll remove the bolts that hold the front plate of the mount to the rest of the mount, and then use a 7/16 wrench to attach that plate to the back of the sensor. Now we're ready to install. This is the location we've chosen. It's along the road we'd like to monitor, and it's a great location in a lot of ways. It has a clear view of all the lanes, and it has the power infrastructure we need. The first thing we do when we arrive is put out these cones for safety. Now we need to pick the offset and mounting height. Since we're using an existing pole, the offset, or the distance from the pole to the first lane of interest, is already set and will determine the mounting height. If we use this pole, our offset is 10 feet. To find what mounting height to use with this offset, we'll consult the table. The recommended mounting height for a 10-foot offset is 12 feet. We'll use a ladder to get the installer to 12 feet, but if it were much higher, we'd probably want to use a bucket truck. First, the installer uses a clamping system to attach the mount to the pole. In this case, we're using hose clamps. The easiest way to do this is to loosely wrap one band around the mount to keep it in place on the pole, and then feed the rest of the bands through the holes on the mount and tighten them all down. Once that's done, our installer uses a 9/16 wrench to attach the sensor to the mount. He keeps the two bolts on the side of the mount a little loose so the sensor can pan up and down, and points the sensor down at the center of the roadway. Now it's time for the cable. The installer squeezes some of the silicon dielectric compound onto the connector to make sure the connection is waterproof and to keep dust and particles out, and plugs in the cable. If this was a permanent installation, we'd drill a hole in the pole and run the cable through it to keep it neatly tucked away, but since this is a temporary one, we'll just run the cable down the side of the pole. In the meantime, our other installer has been on the ground preparing the pole mount box. Under most circumstances, we'd have a traffic cabinet here to store the power and communication devices, but since this is a temporary installation, and since we're going to use wireless communications, a pole mount box will work for now. The installers clamp it to the pole, then run the sensor cable through the cable grips into the box. They terminate this cable by placing each of the connectors inside it into the appropriate slot on this terminal block plug, which they then plug in here. This connects the sensor to the Click 200 and provides it with power and communications. They also run the power cable through a cable grip and terminate it in the appropriate terminal block plug. To finish up, we'll tuck the excess cable into the box, latch it closed, and lock it for security. Now we're ready to start configuring using SmartSensor Manager HD. We have the software here on this laptop that's communicating with the sensor installation via the Click 421 Bluetooth converter. Because we're connected to the sensor via serial communication, we'll choose the serial option. Now we click on Lane Setup and open the configuration screen. We'll make sure the configuration is starting with a clean slate by restarting the auto configuration and clearing the edit area. The first thing we'll look at is the alignment arrow. If the sensor isn't properly aligned, our installer, who's still up by the sensor, can adjust its side-to-side positioning. But it's green, so we don't need to worry about the alignment. Now we wait a few moments while the auto configuration tool places lanes based on the cars that pass. The software has found the 4 lanes we want, so now we'll capture them. If we were going to stay on this screen for a while, we could click on the sidebar and choose Copy Sidebar to save the lanes that currently appear in the edit area. But we're done on this screen, so instead we'll click OK, which will let us save the current configuration and exit the configuration screen. Now we head to the verification screen to confirm that the sensor is picking up what we see on the road. We can change the sidebars to show vehicle presence, volume, speeds, or class, and then watch to make sure that these match the vehicles we see passing. In this case, the software is showing all the vehicles, so we know the sensor is installed and configured correctly. And that's it! The sensor is good to go. Wavetronics is the worldwide leader in radar traffic detection. For a demonstration of the SmartSensor HD, contact your local authorized Wavetronics dealer or visit wavetronics.com for more information.